Hello and welcome back to Alexandria Loves Books. Ever since I did that in that last video, my last reading vlog, it's now stuck in my head as like the intro. So we'll see how long this lasts. I'm sorry. I'll try to get that song out of my brain, but it just feels very fitting. Today's video, it's time for the May reading wrap up. See, I just need like an announcer voice. Like I need something. It's just my heart is wanting it, clearly. But here are the 9-ish books that I've read in May. So let's talk about them. And I'll explain the ish when we get to the ish. Now, most of these books are involved in my videos throughout the month. I will link those videos in the description box in case you're curious to hear more in depth my thoughts and reactions. And I'll mention what videos they are as I go through. Book number 1. This dumpster fire. The Idea of You by Robin Lee. Everyone in the world knows his name, but it's you he wants. 1 star. 1 star. I'm sorry if you can hear yard work being done right now. I hope it's not too loud. We're gonna roll with the punches here. This was in my reading and watching The Idea of You video. Basically, this book is about a 40-year-old single mother named Solène who meets 20-year-old Hayes Campbell at this concert that she goes to for her daughter, and they have immediate chemistry, lust, and then they hook up around the world on his world tour. Definitely go watch that video because I go in depth about how mad this book made me, about how frustrated I was, about how awful it was. There's a spoiler section at the end of the video. This made me book feel a lot of negative things, and not in a good way. This was a waste. Don't read this book. It's a waste of your time. Just watch the movie. The movie is better than the book. Believe me. I know that this is based on Harry Styles. The author has come out saying she regrets saying that, but it's the truth. Turns out when she was writing this book, Harry Styles was 17 and in a relationship with a woman like in her 30s while he was a minor. So now that I even further know the origin of this story, I'm very, very much against this book and don't recommend it at all. Just watch the movie. The movie isn't that great, but it's still a pleasant time compared to this. Don't read this. There's no emotional depth. Solène is such an unlikable character. She's so immature when she's supposed to be, you know, the 40-year-old. The ending is terrible. I will say the ending of the movie is different from the ending in the book. And thank God they changed the ending in the movie. Otherwise the movie would have performed so poorly because it's awful. And a lot of details and things that happen in the story were never wrapped up or talked about again. So it was just bad. Don't read this. Then I read The Rule Book by Sarah Adams. I gave this 4 stars. This is in my what I realistically read in a week video on YouTube. So this follows Nora and Derek. Nora becomes Derek's agent and he's a NFL player, but Derek is still bitter because she broke his heart in college. So he tries to make her life miserable, and then one day they wake up in Vegas hungover, married. I love Sarah Adams. I will forever love her books. They are just sugar for the soul. I will die on that hill. Fight me on it. I dare you to. It's just very fluffy and flirty, and it's not too like heavy even when there are heavier topics or things. It's a good lighthearted read. It's a good palate cleanser when you read too many of these types of books. She typically writes closed-door romances. This one does have a little bit of spice, but she even has a warning at the beginning of the book saying, hey, this chapter does have spice. So warning, in case you don't want to read it, you can just skip over that chapter. And I'm like, that is so considerate and kind. So if you prefer closed-door romances, this is adjustable to you. You can just skip the chapter and it's all good. And it's only 1 chapter. It's not like every other chapter like some other books. And the one thing that stuck out the most to me is just how much Derek loves her. He truly, he's obsessed in the most precious, beautiful way, and I adore them together. Why are we weed whacking right now? This is also the second book in the cheat sheet series. I don't know if there's a technical name to the series, but it's the second one following the cheat sheet. So there's like the same characters in it. In that same video, I read In the Weeds by B.K. Borison. I gave this book 3 stars. It was very mid. Living my review, I just wrote mid because I was like, what else is there to say? This follows Evelyn and Beckett, who we met in the first book, Lovelight Farms. Beckett works at Lovelight Farms, and Evelyn is a social media influencer. We met her in Lovelight Farms when she came for the social media contest that, what's her name? Stella was in. In that book, we found out that before that, Beckett and Evelyn had hooked up together and then kind of separated. But in this book, Evelyn comes back to Lovelight Farms because she's feeling burnt out with her job and with her life, and so she goes to the last place that she felt happiness, which was Lovelight Farms. This book wasn't a bad book, it just wasn't like anything special in my opinion, and I don't say that to be mean. I did love Beckett as a boyfriend. He was amazing and I loved him, but yeah, nothing really stuck out to me with this book. And then I read Tide by Carrie Ann Cole. I read this in the book sleepover vlog and I loved it. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. This is a dark romance, but it's not that dark, which is why I liked it. I like elements of dark, but I don't like it when it's like actually like heavy and dark. Like it's just like a few elements. I don't know, like I have my own, you know, limits and convictions about when I'm good with reading and when I'm not. So this follows Holly and Tyler. Holly was kidnapped when she was just 5 years old, and 11 years later, Tyler finds her, rescues her, and kills her captor. That's right. So then 2 years later, so now she is 18 years old. She's just gone through years of therapy and trying to adjust to the world that she hasn't been exposed to since she was 5 years old. And they reconnect. I'll leave it at that. It was so good. The writing was beautiful. The lines in this book were so like heart-hitting. I was underlining so much in this book. Truly, like, please go watch the book sleepover vlog because I share some of the lines in that and my reactions. It's just, I love them so much. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. They are soulmates. They are meant to be together and I love them and I forever will love them. And they both have just such heart-wrenching backstories and I just felt so deeply for them and what they went through, and also with finding love and happiness with each other. And if you are an acts of service or a gift-giving type of person, you will love Tyler. You will love him. I was blown away by him and how much he just loved, you know? Go read this book if you're at all interested in that type of vibe. It's so good. So then I listened to an audiobook on my walks for a week, and that was The Love Everybody Wants by Madison Pruitt-Trout. This is a Christian nonfiction book. It is about Christian dating and also like the love that Jesus has for us and how he is the one that completes us, and we have everything we need when we have him. And so it kind of talks about how you don't need to rely on being whole or complete once you're married because it's not gonna fulfill you or satisfy you like only Jesus can and will, and you need that before you can be in a healthy Christian relationship. I rated this 3 stars. It was good. It had a lot of biblical wisdom that everyone should know about Jesus and relationships, but I did feel it was kind of surface level and very basic. I wish it went deeper, and it didn't. It was kind of like, oh, like I've heard her talk about this stuff all before, because I listened to like podcasts, both her podcasts and podcasts she's been on, and it's all good stuff, but it's nothing like new or all that deep. I mean, there were a few times that I was like, yes, you know, preach. But most of the time I was like, I've heard that about 105 times now. So like, it's like, thank you. Like, I need to know that. So like, thank you for putting that in there. But like, I didn't get much out of the book. And then if you watched my most recent reading vlog, reading 200 pages a day for a week, you would know I finally read Iron Flame. Finally. It took me many months, but I finally built up the courage and I did it. And I read it in 3 days. Like the strong woman I am. I rated this 5 stars. I love this world. I love this series so much. I rated Fourth and 5 stars. I rated this 5 stars. I will forever be obsessed with Xander and Violet. They are soulmates. They are meant to be. They are perfect and I love them and no one can take that away from me, okay? Okay. I can't really say much about what this is about because it kind of follows the events at the end of Fourth Wing, so I don't want to spoil Fourth Wing by telling you what this is about. But this book wrecked me. This book wrecked me. It put me through an emotional roller coaster in a good way, a roller coaster that I enjoyed and loved. It made my brain feel like it exploded in a good way. It wrecked me. It had everything I want in a romantasy. I feel so deeply connected and tied, not tied, that's a weird word, but connected to these characters and to this world. They just pull at my heartstrings and I love it. So go read this series, please, for me. Then I read The Silent Patient. This follows Alicia, who her husband years ago and hasn't spoken a word since, and Theo, who was a therapist who is very intrigued by her and her story and wants to treat her. I rated this 4.5 stars. I had been putting it off for almost a year because I thought I wouldn't like it. I read this in one day. One day. I don't do that often. So that just goes to show that like I naturally did that, but this was really good. So good. A lot of thrillers, I'm bored throughout the first half. This, I wasn't super like hooked right away, but I wasn't bored, which is amazing for me. And I loved the twist. I kind of guessed and suspected it like sentences before it was like revealed, and it got me and I enjoyed it and I loved it and it was such a good experience. I get why this is so hyped on Book Talk. It is well deserved. And then I read another Christian nonfiction book, and that is Experiencing Friendship with God, How the Wilderness Draws Us to His Presence. This is about being best friends with God. This book is so just like pure and filled with love and kindness, and it felt like a warm hug in a book, truly. It helped me re-fall in love with Jesus. It helped me see how much Jesus loves me and how much he wants me and chooses me every day and is always there with me. And I love that it was very biblical, this book. It was connecting all of her points to scripture. And it was heavily focused on Exodus during Israel's 40 years in the wilderness as they were being led by Moses out of Egypt and out of slavery and going to the promised land. Which is kind of cool because like that's actually what I'm reading now in the Bible, and like I didn't plan that, it just kind of happened, and I started picking up this book and reading it and I was like, wait, that's what I'm reading about right now. That's kind of cool. It's God. I rated this 5 stars. It was amazing and I truly recommend this for every single Christian and also anyone that's just interested about Christianity and Jesus. If you're at all interested, read this book because it takes out takes out all like the BS within the issues of, you know, Christianity and or like the people in Christianity, the church. Like I know there's a lot of issues and different things that are wrong in this world and how Christians behave sometimes, and that's a whole thing that we could go into that we won't right now. But just taking those all aside and just focusing on Jesus and being like, okay, who is this God, and what does he want for me or from me? What does he want with me? And you get to see, like, learn about his character of just, he's just always with you and wants to spend time with you and loves you. So I'll leave that at that. I highly recommend it and I love it so much, and I'm going to recommend this to every person for the rest of my life probably. So my 9th-ish book is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I'm saying 9-ish because I haven't finished it yet. I'm on page 232. I'm either going to finish this today or tomorrow, which tomorrow is June 1st. So maybe, I don't know. I'm just counting it because I read most of it and I hope to finish it today if time allows. This is the first book in like the little Part of Your World series. This is also my first Abby Jimenez book and I am loving it so far. I honestly don't know what I'm going to rate it. This follows Alexis and Daniel. Alexis is an ER doctor and she has a nasty breakup, a horrible ex, and a lot of pressure put on her by her parents who want her to be this specific way and live this specific life that they have planned for her and want for her. but mainly for themselves and not because, like, ugh. But she comes across Daniel in a small town where he's from, 2 hours away from where she lives, because she ends up in a ditch. So it kind of gives One in Rome vibes, how they meet and he like helps her out of the ditch. And they do have an immediate connection and banter. The writing is so good. I love the banter. It's so fun. I love Daniel. He is so wholesome. But right now the question is, how can they make it work when her life is expected to look a certain way that doesn't really fit him in it? So within the next 140-ish pages, I will find out how. And this will also be in a video coming up soon. So you'll hear more of my thoughts there. So these are the 8, almost 9 books I've read in May. As always, let me know what you've been reading and what you've read in May and what your thoughts are. I am sorry if the weed whacker was really obnoxious and annoying. I tried my best to like wait till it went a little more silent. Well, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to seeing you again in my next video. Happy reading.